Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome back. For those of you that don't know, I'm Elise. I'm the host of Libronauts Book Club. We are a monthly book club for the months of January through October, and we read a variety of science fiction books. We read space, dystopian, speculative, a huge variety. So this month, I have my friend Keisha here with me, co-hosting for the Nightmare Virus. Keisha, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello. My name is Keisha, and I'm from the channel A Book Like You. And sci-fi, dystopian, all the things they are very outside of my comfort genre. So I was really excited to be able to participate again in Libronauts. So I'm really excited because this is putting me outside my comfort zone. But I feel like this was still like a safe read for me. So I want to continue to push myself. But typically, what I read, or at least in the last year, I think what my comfort genre is romance, specifically like cleaning clothes or romance. But I also like a little bit of everything. Like I read some mysteries, I read some random stuff like literary fiction when I don't even think I like that. So I have a mixed bag of things. But yeah, that's kind of me.
Awesome. Yeah. And like Keisha said, this is her second time co-hosting with me. She was our co-host. Was it August or September? I can't remember. I think so. I don't
I don't
remember.
remember. I just know we read Foe.
Yep. Oh, by Ian Reid. All right. So if you guys read the book, let us know your thoughts and what you rated it in the comments. We've got Wendy here. Hello, Wendy. Hey, Gwen. Hey, Brandon. Didn't have a chance to read this, but it is on my TBR. Just want to drop by and show some support. Oh, thank you. And then while people drop their thoughts and whatnot, Keisha, do you want to give a spoiler-free synopsis of the book that we read this month?
Yes. So the Nightmare Virus is following our main character, Kane. Question mark? Yeah, Kane. And he lives in a world where there is dream technologies that have been created. And one of these dream technologies kind of goes awry, and this nightmare virus comes out of that. And so people are plagued by this nightmare virus where I don't know, this is kind of, I'm like, is this spoilery? I don't think we know this yet. But okay, so they're plagued by this nightmare virus, and Kane is determined to find a cure for it. But he can only do that when he's awake. And when he's asleep, he's in the nightmare and he's trying to figure it out from that side. So I don't want to say too much more because I feel like if I said anything else, it's what you learned it at the beginning of the book. But that's essentially what it is. And yeah, unless I've missed anything, if you want to add anything, you can.
I don't think so. I mean, aside from the fact, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but there was a lot going on in this book, like even genre-wise. There's like a little bit of everything. Let's see here. Hello, Sam. All right, Wendy rated it 3 stars. Sam did 3.5 stars and listened to it. Did you do audiobook or just read it physically?
I did both. I read it physically and listened to the audio.
Yep, me too. Me too. All right. Read it last fall. Gave it 5 stars. Awesome. I'm glad you liked it.
And I don't know if Amy's going to be here tonight, but Amy C. Books, she loves this book. She also gave it 5 stars. Yeah.
Perfect. And Wendy did audio only as well. All right. Now, I think you've read by this author before, right? No?
No. I know that everybody was reading Wistress when that came out, but even before that, like when I was discovering BookTube in like 2018, 2019, people talked about Romanov, which is one of her books. Yeah. That's about, I guess, like an Anastasia reimagining. So I have known that she's existed for a while, like she's written books, but this has been the first of her books that's piqued my interest the most. Like Wistress kind of did, but it was really thick, and I was like, I don't read a lot of fantasy, which, I mean, I don't read a lot of this either, but the concept of like a nightmare virus and like this, I don't know, like the way that it's set up is just interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a mind thing. I like mind stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of trippy. Um, so Wistress, that didn't Jordan used to have a fantasy book club. Okay, and that was one of her. So I did start Wistress, but I DNF'd it. So that's been the only exposure I've had to this author. I don't remember how far I got into it. I don't think I got very far. And I think the main reason, sorry, I have like a hair stuck on my, there we go. I got it. I think the big thing, like the reason that I DNF'd Wistress was because it's YA, and I feel like her writing, it does feel really YA.
Mhm.
And I just usually don't gravitate towards that. Whereas like Anatomy of Love Story, that's YA, but I feel like it's not written, like the writing doesn't feel YA. So I think
Yeah.
it just depends. So
She,
yeah.
to me, like, and it's been years since I've read like the Hunger Games or anything,
Mhm.
but the way that she writes is very simplistic and like what I would expect a YA dystopian to be written like. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't say simplistic in that. I mean, like this was she did a lot in this. She put a lot there, but the way that it's just written on page, like the writing style to me is very straightforward. It's not something I would describe as like atmospheric, at least not initially. It wasn't for me. It wasn't something like atmospheric or something I got really connected with initially, but it was just like straightforward. And I
Mhm.
feel like there tends to be a lot of YA books that I've read, at least in this genre, that are similar in that regard.
Yeah. And I mean, that makes sense because, getting into the mind of somebody that is that young of an age, because he's like, what, 20-ish?
Yeah, I don't know. Does it say? I don't know if it says, but yeah, he's got to be.
Yeah, or like late teens or something. Maybe his brother was 20 or something like that. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
they're
in their
they're
20s.
pretty young. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be 35 soon, so, like, 20 is a baby to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, guys, we are gonna get into some spoilers, so if you don't wanna be spoiled, maybe click off at this point. So the first thing that I wanted to kinda discuss was the fact that this book really combines, like, multiple genres, and kind of the big ones are dystopian sci-fi, fantasy, and there's also a lot of Christian allegory. There is also, I don't know if you consider it the genre, but a lot of, like Roman mythology, and
Mhm.
I think even a little bit of Greek mythology. Oops, where'd my phone go? So, with that being said, all of these genres kind of coming together, do you feel like
Mhm.
that enhanced the story? Did it detract from the story? Like, what do you think about that?
So I from the get go, we were just like thrown into this. And I was
Mhm,
like, what is going on? And so, like, you're at the beginning, him and his brother are awake. They're trying to find this cure. He doesn't know his brother has the virus and he doesn't know what it's like until later on. He gets the virus, he goes in, and immediately, like, you're thrown into this gladiator situation.
mhm,
But then it's not just so there's your like Roman esque type stuff, I guess, but then it's like sci-fi because it's like in his brain, like this is a virus. But then it's like they do talk about, like you said, Christian allegory, and there's a lot of that within this. But I do think she could have gone deeper on that. It was very simplistic, in my opinion. Like with the Christian allegory, to me was mostly like light versus darkness versus anything deeper in that like faith element.
yeah,
But then you get like all these random creatures coming out of nowhere, which is fantasy. And I was like, what is this spore? When I read spore, immediately my brain went to all these people that have read Tress of the Emerald Sea and they talk about spores. And I'm like, what is so I Google what is a spore? Like I need to know. And it's like these little mushroom looking people is what they were described as from there. But then after you find out what the spores are here, I'm like, okay, but that's probably not what they look like. They're just called spores. But
yeah,
I was so confused. Like I remember being at the beginning, I was like, what is this? So to me, it kind of like detracted from it a little bit, at least at the beginning, because I was like, there's so much going on. And I feel like I don't know, I've whiplash,
yeah.
So maybe towards the end, it didn't feel as detracting from it. It
Mhm.
blended a little bit more, but I don't know. I feel like my initial thing is I wish she would have just focused on one thing a little
Yeah.
bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have to agree. It was I don't know. Like, personally, my preferred setting was when he was awake, because that was, like, the dystopian part.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, like, naturally, that's the part that I gravitated towards the most, and then, like, I feel like within the dreamscape, while the whole concept of that is very sci-fi, everything that happened within that was very fantasy. And,
Yeah.
like, you said, like, all the different creatures and, like, oh my goodness, it was kinda crazy. And, like, as far as the Christian allegory, it's funny that you say, like, that it didn't really go super deep. And, like, for me, like, I'm not super familiar with Christian allegory, so for me, like, I felt like, "Oh, wow, this is, like, I'm learning a lot about this."
Oh, that's good.
Kind of an interesting, perspective difference there. Um, Interestingly, though, with the spores, and I honestly just thought of this as you were talking about it, but when I first heard spore, I was thinking of, like, fungal spores and, like, things
Yeah.
that are put out into the air and spread viruses. Um, and so thinking of, like, those type of people, now that I've read the story, maybe they were called spores because they're, like, spreading evil according to, you know.
Yeah. According to one side, they were spreading
Yeah.
it.
Also,
Yeah.
too, I have to say the part where Cain meets Luce and he's like, "Oh, I'm Luce," and he's like, "What's your last name?" "Ifer."
Yeah. I was like, this is gonna be the most obvious, like, he's not gonna be the good guy if his name is
Right.
Luke.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. Okay. Sorry. I need to catch up on some comments here. They were in college, but I think that's all we get for an idea of age. Okay. So, yeah, around late
Oh,
teens,
yeah,
early.
because that's where they were looking for, like, the cure and stuff. Gosh, math and all the things. Yeah, I remember them talking about that at the beginning where they went to the college to try to get supplies
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah.
Uh, Also thought of Trust the Emerald Sea. See, I didn't read that. I started to, and I only got like 2 chapters in. I'm like, "I'm not feeling this right now," so I put it down, but I'll get to it eventually. All I could think of was Trust the Emerald Sea with the spores.
I haven't even read it, I've just heard people talk about it, and
Mhm.
I'm like, "Oh, what are these?"
That's why I kept comparing her to Sanderson. Okay,
Mhm.
that makes sense. Yeah. As someone who did not read the book, I think blending genres is always tricky because the reader has to enjoy all the different genres for it to really work for them. I do think it's ambitious.
Yeah.
Very ambitious. And I think I kind of agree with you, Keisha, that, like, I don't know. I think it more detracted
Mhm.
than helped personally.
There's just
Um,
a lot to keep up with because of all
yeah,
the different elements that she was trying to include.
yeah. And yeah, like being in the dreamscape and with all of the like battle type scenes, like and the weapons, I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, it's a lot.
And well, because Lord of the Rings was mentioned so much, there was a lot about Lord of the Rings that I was like imagining when, they're talking about all the different creatures or the weapons or the different kind of fight scenes. Like that's obviously what came to mind. But I also kind of saw it as a little bit of like a comedic relief,
Yeah.
a little. Sam agrees with you. Spores also made me think of the show The Last of Us. I also haven't seen that.
I haven't
I want
either.
to. I love Pedro Pascal. Yvette, hello. Just got out of a meeting, made it 60%, and I'm here to be spoiled. Okay.
Are you DNFing at 60%, Yvette? 60? You're more than halfway.
I mean, to be completely honest, I don't blame her.
Oh,
This
hot
book
take.
was so hard
This
for me to get through. I got halfway and I'm like, I'm only halfway.
Oh my gosh. See, I was gonna ask you because I was gonna ask when you said that you DNF'd Wistress. I
Mhm.
was gonna say, if this wasn't a book club pick, would you have DNF'd?
Yep.
This is okay. I haven't shared my thoughts yet, so like, don't take all this in one span of everything, okay? But I
Mhm.
probably would have to because when I first started this, I was like, I don't like the way this writing is. So,
Oh, no. Yeah, I even told Nick I was, like, sitting in my little reading corner downstairs, like trying to read, and I'm like, I need to switch to a different book. I'm like not
Yeah.
feeling this. And he's
I
like,
do think the second half got better than the first. For me, it did, but it still felt very long and a lot.
I don't know. Like, I think I liked the beginning part better, honestly, just because it was there was more of the, I mean, we get some of the awake time in the second half as well, but I don't know. But yeah, he's like, just stop reading it. I was like, I
The second
literally can't.
the second half, you had the awake time with the what do they call them? Um,
Like the real name for this verse.
Adelphoi? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
what the name was or something like that? So like their actual what they call themselves was like Adelphoi or something.
yeah.
That time with them in the awake time, I thought was really cool. How they were all together in the house and like they were taking care of each other when they were asleep, and they had this like little dystopian apocalyptic camp set
Yeah.
up thing. So I thought that was neat.
Let's see. Can sort of give you whiplash switching between all the different genres. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Like the Christian allegory, I definitely feel was like sprinkled in evenly. But then, yeah, the juxtaposition of like the sci-fi portion and then the fantasy portion and just like back and forth and
My personal this is like a completely a personal opinion. I know some people like love when Christian allegory is sprinkled throughout like this, but
mhm,
I'm much more the type that like I either want it kind of with the genre blending thing. I want it to be wholly that or wholly not. And
mhm,
for me, there were little random tidbits like they'd mention biblical things randomly here and there, but it just felt like you said it's sprinkled in. It didn't feel like purposeful enough for me, and I
mhm.
wanted it to have more of a purpose. So that's where I was like, I would have rather read this as like not even a Christian book, like because I don't know, it just to me, I'm just that type. I'm like it needs to be in this type of a book. I think I would just prefer it left out, but like I don't know, it just needs to be all in or all not. So,
Yeah.
and it was kind of hokey, in my opinion. Like, and I'm from a Christian perspective, this was a hokey, in my opinion. I'm sorry if I'm hurting anybody's feelings that love this book, but it was a hokey, like, integration of it,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So,
Yeah.
we're just going there.
Like, I think that was a pretty common because I was looking at some of the reviews on Goodreads, and that's a pretty common opinion, honestly. Yeah. That's another 3 hours of my life. Does this book remind you of Sanderson writing?
I feel like she's going to say no.
Oh, don't be mad, but not at all. Ugh, whatever. You just crack me up. The beginning was promising for me, same. And then the end was so hard to get through, same. Sam and I are on the same page.
I'm the opposite. Oh, goodness.
Well, I think because I had an idea in my head of what this book was gonna look like, and the beginning of it kind of matched that, and then it
Yeah.
went off the rails a little. I figured that since it, talked about Fire Swamp, maybe it reminded you of Tress. Oh,
That too.
again,
But
I
that's
don't
like cozy fantasy. This is not cozy. This is
know.
bloody. Like
Yeah,
some of the descriptions, I was like, "What in the world?"
yeah. Specifically was
Hmm.
Tress. Beginning had so much unknown, and the ending felt so predictable.
Yeah, it was
See,
bad.
but I didn't see the ending coming.
You didn't see the twist.
Well, I figured Luce was not a good guy, but I didn't realize, like, his dad wasn't his dad. It was
Yeah,
actually
I was piecing that together, and then they didn't say anything about it, and then finally they revealed it, and I was like, "Well, I was thinking that. Why'd you wait till now to?" Anyway.
Okay, friends, I'm gonna hop off. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for joining, Gwen. I do appreciate it. Side note, Ted Dekker is a fantastic Christian thriller mystery author. The way he does it, it's fully a thriller, but there is symbolism that relates to the Bible. Awesome. Thank you for the rec. He's excellent. Bye, Gwen. For me, the issue with this book is I don't think it's thrilling enough.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
had its moments, but overall, like you look at this cover and you think like, "Oh, this is going to be really intense," and there
Yeah.
were moments, but it was kind of hokey.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
the word of the night for me.
I didn't even notice until I was, like, almost done with the book, but the cover, which it's so creative. Whoa, okay.
Yeah, it
Like,
really is.
in his head part is, like, um oh, no, what is it called?
The Colosseum.
Thank you. I wanted to say, like, Parthenon or something. Is, like, the Colosseum setting, and then outside of his head, like, on either side is, like, the
Mhm.
city, which is,
Yeah,
like, representing the dystopian awake time, like, I don't know. I was like, "Oh, that's
it is a
clever."
really pretty cover.
Yes, it is, definitely.
His dagger is
Mhm.
on the front, which I think it's interesting that they put his dagger because I think this is the dagger that he ended up not being able to use. You know, like the it that's what it makes me think of anyways. I'm like, why didn't you put the other one, the sword thingy that he gets later? But anyway, all the weird things.
With the element of a virus taking over the world, I just didn't feel the suspense. True.
Mm.
Very true. Let's see. So the book explores the science of dream technology that leads to a global crisis. So how does that reflect current concerns of future tech?
So as someone who is not super knowledgeable about all this, I'm gonna have like probably a short answer, but well, no, I won't. I'm ramblesome with everything, but I don't have probably the most educated answer because I don't watch the news and I don't like to instill fear in myself. I know I need to be knowledgeable to some extent, but I think like just I know this is specifically dream tech, but just tech in general with where we're headed, this terrifies me because we have so much literature, so many like media things that tell you all these things that can go wrong, whether it's with AI or with like, I know there's been speculation on, well, I don't know, there may actually be chips now, but people always talk about you're going to get a chip inserted in you and like all this. I don't like any of that. And I'm like, we've got all this media that tells you all the reasons why you shouldn't, and yet we're still in this direction. So I think this is just another form of media that reminds me why we shouldn't try to do things like this. Like
Mhm.
to me, it felt like virtual reality, like if you're putting that on. But this is something that you take a magic serum, this injection of stuff, in order to be in a dreamscape that now has been corrupted and it's a nightmare. Like you could not pay me $1 billion to inject some random stuff in me. And I don't want to get into politics and who did what and whatever, but like I didn't take the COVID vaccine because I was scared. I didn't know. I'm just being honest. Like we don't have to get into that, but I knowing that, and that was
Mhm.
something that we lived. I just don't. I have trust issues.
Yeah.
I just have trust issues. So that's all I'll say about that. I don't have any like educational things to add about
Yeah.
it. What
Well, no,
about
I mean,
you?
that was a great answer, and I didn't even think about vaccines because I'm like, "Oh, I have to get this vaccine. Okay, I get the
Yeah.
vaccine." And, like, but what if,
Yeah. And I
What
do
if
with
you
some
just
stuff, but if it's newer, I'm like, how long did you test?
yeah,
You know? But this isn't even a vaccine. This is just like purely for
voluntary.
entertainment
Yeah,
purposes.
yeah.
No, no.
And it's like, even in that manner, it doesn't even have to be like, um, an evil or like a sinister reason. It could be
Mhm.
something accidental or something, like you said, was corrupted that causes yeah, that's terrifying. But I was thinking, like, as far as future tech, I was just thinking, 1, the chip thing, but also, like, the implants, like, the ocular implants to be able to, like, see, like, a hub like you do in video games or something, like, only you can see
Wait, do
it.
those exist?
I
Or are
don't
they coming?
I don't think so, but I don't know, honestly. But it's definitely talked
Mhm.
about, like, that's the future, so, like,
Yeah.
we don't need to have physical cell phones. Like, have you seen the show Upload, I think it's called, on Prime?
I don't think so.
It's like I don't know, they just have something and they're able to, like, boop, boop, call
Like
somebody or, like,
you're able
video
to
chat.
see. That kind of reminds me. There was some movie or show where like these people wore these glasses
Mhm.
and they could see. Actually, you know what? That could have been Space Boy, the graphic novel. I don't know. Anyways, all my stuff's getting mixed up. But you could do things like in the air, like it would come up
Mhm.
in the air.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense. If you got something implanted where you could just see. I don't need that though. We don't even need these. Like We're just going in the opposite direction of where we should be.
I know. And I mean, it is scary because it's like things get hacked now, like as simplistic as they are, compared to something that is literally in our brains.
Yeah.
And something in our brains could get hacked and make us do things or trap us in these like dreamscapes. It's terrifying.
Mm.
Yes. Ready Player One. That is immediately what I thought of as well, Yvette.
Yeah. That was going to be my answer to the question later.
Neat. That's what okay. Oops, where's my banner? Okay, come down here. So
Fast forward.
I always ask that, and that's my little note to myself
Yeah.
to talk about Ready
It
Player One.
really did feel like it. I've never read the book, but I've seen the movie and I loved the movie. And that is what I envisioned some of, like even with the awake world, like it just, I don't know, some of that, because that was in a city too,
Yeah.
a different set of circumstances. But
Yeah.
I don't know. That's funny that we all thought of that. It felt like a video game at times.
Yeah. And I didn't watch the movie. I read the book, but that is what I thought, because I'm pretty sure, and again, I don't know if this happens in the movie, but I'm pretty sure like at one point he has to wake up because there's like, I don't know, bad guys there or something.
Yeah.
And like that just kind of made me think like when their house was on fire and like his body was in peril because of the smoke inhalation and, you know, flames.
Yeah, they really are similar.
Mm-hmm. Definitely concerns with AI. What is too far? Where is the limit? Can it learn to be on its own? And will there also be glitches? When do we rely too much on AI? I think we already do, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just watched, yeah. And I just watched that Megan Fox movie. I can't remember what it's called now, like Subservience or something like that. It's basically Megan, but more adult. And it's like, that's terrifying. Hey, Jess. Thanks for stopping by. Love the book. So good. Oh, Ready Player One. Yeah. Although I had Ready Player Two and I didn't rate it. I ended up unhauling it because I was like, I feel like Ready Player One was just good the way it was.
I've heard people say that it wasn't necessary to have another one. So
yeah. Nightmare Virus kept talking about the drafter or something, and that is very much what Ready Player One was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. All right, so the nightmare virus targets the mind rather than the body. So how did that influence the character's response to that outbreak?
This question I struggled with a little bit more, but I do think it's interesting that like he's still, other than the times where, you know, he was on fire or not, he wasn't on fire, but you know, like he was in a fire or he got shot or something like that. This was largely, it's just interesting because I feel like most books or movies and stuff don't focus on a mind thing as much as they do like something happens to your body, like zombie outbreak, you know, that's something that, yes, it does affect your mind too, but it's, I don't know, your whole body has like a shift.
Yeah.
So I do think it was interesting because I read something recently that talks about how, what did I read? Oh, well, I guess I can say because Gwen's not here. I actually read Tomorrow Times 3, but she doesn't know that yet. Nobody tell her. But I think that in that book they talk about how your mind. Oh, I know what it was because he lost his. You've read this book. Okay, so just scratch everything I just said. People who lose their limbs sometimes get phantom syndrome, phantom pain or whatever. So like your brain thinks that your limb is still there and that it's in pain, but it's not, and it's a mind thing. And there was like this whole segment where they talk like therapy talk or whatever about, you know, how this is. And it's funny because like that also correlates with anxiety. And I don't know where I'm going with this. It's something about this question made me think of that, but just how our minds are. So I think it's interesting to attack a mind that where you already can't sometimes distinguish, like this is not my brain, my
like reality from make believe type thing.
Yeah, like stuff like that, or yeah, in certain senses. So I think it's interesting to in the dream, he said that he would eat and drink, and he knows it's not actually nourishing him, but it felt like it. I
Mhm.
don't know. I just think it's an interesting thing to have something attack your mind in that way versus like your body actually having something physically going on.
Right.
But then you do, and well, no, and even the way that you die, they say if you die in the dream, you die in real life, but it's only if you don't have somebody taking care of you in real life, because obviously you're you can't feed yourself if you're like left in the sleep state with, I don't know,
Mhm.
you can't feed yourself, you can't do all these things. So I don't have a great answer to that, but it made my brain think about other things.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's perfect. So, like, in regards to that, I one thing that I was confused about was why Noel died, because technically Cain was there taking care of him. I mean, he wasn't eating a whole lot,
Yeah.
but technically he was there taking care of him.
But I
And
guess he didn't have enough, like, they were talking about the life pod thing. So he didn't have enough ways to, because, whenever they got in those, they were talking about all these different IVs and things they had to plug in to give them the nourishment that they needed. So
Mhm,
maybe they just didn't. And he was chewing gum. He didn't even have like resources. So I'm sure that he probably died because he didn't have the resources to keep him alive, his body alive too.
yeah,
But
that's true. And that actually reminded me of Project Hail Mary, because when he's, like, on the ship, like, that's how they kept him alive, was he was, like,
mhm.
in this induced coma basically, but he was hooked up to all these IVs and, like, getting nourishment that way. Um, but yeah, like, because I feel like at the beginning of the book, like, we are told and we're led to believe, like you said, if you die in the dreamscape, then you die in real life, and, like, that's what the virus leads up to, but then it sounded like that's not the case for everybody, so that part just, like, and maybe I wasn't, like, fully listening or paying attention to the story because I was already kind of like, "Oh my gosh, I'm just kinda trying to get
Yeah.
through this," which is possible, so I'm sure there's a lot of detail that I missed out on, but yeah, that was just something that confused me a little bit.
Well, and they did come in talking about whenever they got into the nightmare, like when he broke out of his tunnel, they're like,
Mhm,
"Oh, this is an anger." So like some of them were like fear and some of them were anger. So that's a mind thing too of like
mhm,
what is your response in this situation? So instead of it just like it made his response more real in the dreamscape, like depending on how his reaction was,
mhm.
um, like what his emotion was, it came to be more how he reacted physically in the dreamscape.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I was trying to think what else this was making me think of, like, I mean, obviously the pandemic that we all lived through, like,
Yeah.
knowing that that's a very like, that's something that affects you physically, and, like, you for the like, hopefully, are awake throughout the whole thing, and you can, for the most part, kinda take care of yourself, whereas, like, this type of situation, I feel like it would be much scarier.
Mhm. Especially if you're alone.
Yes, because then you
Mhm.
have no control. You have nobody there to take care of you to try to make sure that you're okay. So I yeah, this I don't know, it thinking about this question, it's like when you try to think about how big the universe is, and it kind of breaks your brain a little bit, and you're like, "I almost can't even comprehend that." Like, trying to comprehend how I would react if this were something that if this were an outbreak like we had to deal with in real life,
Yeah.
like, that's terrifying.
Terrifying. Mhm.
Mhm. Okay, so I think just in how he would try and check his emotions all the time during the dream. Oh, okay. To see if he was acting
Okay.
out of character. That's a good pull. Yeah. And I think I I think I worded it a little funny, and I was telling Keisha, like, I had a hard time coming up with questions, so I did
You
some
did
research.
a good job because your questions are very like they made my brain think. So
Well, I was trying to, like, find some common themes, like, between, um, like, other people's reviews and just trying to get some ideas, like, what are some questions that I could ask for this? So, like, I mean, I don't think any of these are original by any means, like, I had to get some
yes,
help, that's
ma'am.
for sure. There's an anime called Sword Art Online, and in it, there's a new VR game, but when people go into it, they discover they can't get out unless they beat the game. Oh no, that's terrifying.
Mhm. Well, in that case, Jumanji, you got to beat the game.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, I didn't
Mhm.
even think of that, but that's so I mean, I mean, you're kind of, like, physically in it, but, like,
Yeah.
it's really the same concept. Now I wanna watch Jumanji.
Mhm.
They do say that there's no guarantee that they'll wake up every time they die in the virus, and a lot of other people died in real life too, yeah. But didn't they say the Adelphoi, for whatever reason, they could die multiple times in the
Yeah,
dreamscape, but their
like that.
bodies what
I
was
wish
the
it
reason
would have been
behind
explained more. Like, I understand the sentiment of that,
that? Mhm.
but and I guess maybe the reason why that they were able to die and come back is because they were being but that no, but it doesn't make sense. Well, I guess it's because they were being taken care of, but I don't know. I don't feel like that was fleshed out as much as I would
Mhm.
have liked.
And there was also the kids too. Like,
Yeah, and how they could
kids would be able
go
to
back.
die, but, like, remain because they were, like, waiting for their parents.
Yeah, like they could go back and forth because
Yeah.
Luce would use them to until they were a certain age to go back and forth
Mhm.
between worlds. Yeah, I would have liked that to be fleshed out a little bit more.
Yeah. I agree that it felt like there were so many things that had rules, but the rules weren't black and white.
Mhm.
As the story went on, it felt like more answers and less answers at the same time.
Yeah.
Where it's like the answers create new questions that you need answers for and don't get. Your questions are deep.
Yep.
I love them, but also don't have an easy response. Yeah. I don't know what she's referring to. Jumanji, maybe?
Maybe.
Makes me think, oh, Jumanji and Spy Kids. Oh, yeah, Spy Kids. Oh. Let's see. Did I do this one? Okay.
Yeah.
So, how does the fictional portrayal, I feel like we talked about this already, of a mind targeting virus resonate with recent health crises of the modern
Yeah.
day? Yeah.
I mean, but you could also think of it in regard to like Alzheimer's and dementia. It's different, but it does attack the mind. It is a well, I know like now there's speculation on is this a brain disease or is it not? Because I think it's being speculated it may be autoimmune related now. I
Mm,
don't know. That's like new science. So, look, there's something I do know just because I saw it on Facebook, so it may not be true. But
mhm.
um, yeah, I do think though, in a more realistic sense of a maybe not a virus, but it is a disease that people get, and so it is a recent or modern day health crisis. That's the
Yeah,
only thing I can really think of in regard to that. But
yeah,
you do kind of lose you're losing who you are, you're losing your memories, you're losing part of yourself. And when they were in the nightmare virus, they were forgetting who they were in the awake,
mhm,
what was going on. So
yeah. And didn't Kane, like, as he got closer to, like, the expiration, basically, or as he got to the point where he was awake less and less and in the dreamscape more and more, it seemed like he was able to remember more.
yeah, yeah.
Which is kind of scary because if you're able to remember, but you're not able to get back to the regular world as much, then you
Mhm.
kind of start to feel trapped more. Yeah. Excuse me. I feel like I skipped a question, but I don't think I did. Oh, there it is. It's later. Okay. Um, but yeah, no, the dementia thing, that's a good pull. I think that's a great example. Because it's like the difference between being effective and being lucid and like
Yeah.
having and as the disease progresses, you are lucid less and less, kind of like in with the nightmare virus. As the virus progresses, you're in the dreamscape more and awake less. Wendy says that's true, Keisha. I can't imagine a worse disease than dementia and Alzheimer's,
Mhm.
honestly. Yeah. Like both for the person experiencing it and their loved ones.
Yeah.
Like I thought he was able to remember more because the spore unlocked his brain. See, that's something that like Again, maybe something I just wasn't absorbing because I wasn't fully paying attention, but like, didn't he basically, excuse me, turn into a spore by the end?
Yeah. And I think what the visual of this always cracked me up because I just envisioned a lightning bolt going into his head. I don't know why. Like, so, just weird visualization. But I think maybe like what that did was bring him closer to truth. I do think, I don't remember that specific part, but she could be right on this that it did help him remember in real life more.
Mhm.
But I think also it just helped him see the truth of like what was actually going on once that happened. And it also, I think, helped fix his emotions and stuff too. Just, I don't know.
Yeah. And I feel like by the end, and kind of like you said, like, the light and the dark and having faith and whatnot, like he, as the story progressed, even though things seemed to be getting worse, his faith that like things were going to be okay kind of
Yeah.
kept
But honestly,
increasing.
that's what faith does for you. Like when you put your hope in something like that, which can be a scary thing, but like it gives you that assurance that like this is outside of my control. And yes, like the unknown is scary, but like when you believe that, it helps you along. So I like that sentiment. I
Yeah.
do wish it was. I don't know. I'm left wanting more from it at the end of the day, though. Hmm.
Yeah, it like reminded me of the verse at the end. The night is far gone, the day is at hand. So then let us cast off the works of darkness and put on the armor of light. It's
Mhm.
almost like you said, kind of like you can't necessarily control it. So just like embrace it with the
Mhm.
resources that you have. So I thought that was kind of cool. Most of Midden. Most of our modern health crises are physical and hard enough to deal with, but when it's your mind, it makes it difficult to know what's your own thoughts and what are thoughts brought on by the virus.
Yeah,
Indeed.
that's a good point.
Yeah. I agree with Keisha. I felt there was more that needed to be fleshed out. Mhm. Okay, so there's a shared dreamscape in this story. So, like, how did that affect relationships and societal structures of that world? And, like, I guess the thinking behind this is, and I know, okay. So,
You can
in
answer the question because I don't have a good answer yet, so you can just go into it if you want to.
well, like, I don't know, like, I guess I'm forgetting, like, the intent behind that or, like, what sparked this question, because my thinking was it's a shared dreamscape, so theoretically, everyone is experiencing the same thing, but
Right.
what if they're not? So, like, what if the dreamscape for Cain is different than the dreamscape for the other people there, even though they're interacting?
Hmm.
You know
That's
what
an
I mean?
interesting thought.
It's like thinking
Yeah,
about
we
color.
wouldn't know. Yeah.
Like,
I
how do
mean,
I
we
know
have
that
different
purple for me
perspectives, but
is
I get what you're saying, like, or is it blended in a way where they see something different? I don't know. She didn't really get into that, so, like, I don't know
yeah,
how they would have seen it, but I do think, well, you're talking about shared dreamscape, but then how it affects the societal structures of the world. Obviously, the people with more money had life supplied,
yeah,
so they got to enjoy that longer. I don't know if nightmare is very enjoyable, but
yeah,
and definitely loose with just his ability to. I mean, he manipulated the whole thing. Um, but it's interesting. I wish we would have got a little bit more. I'm an origin story girl, so I kind of wish we would have gotten a little bit more of his origin, which I know
mhm,
that's not the point of the book, but like, why did these people so easily follow what he said? Like, but I guess that's also he masked himself. I'm thinking like, okay, so I'm thinking biblically now, like the devil is like an angel of light and like he masks himself in goodness. And so like I get that she was kind of portraying that as deceit and it appeared like he was saving these children when in fact it was the spores that were saving the children. But I just think it's interesting, like is that all it took for people to just be like, oh yeah, he's the good guy? Like, or did he come in and have some, I don't know. I just would like to know more of that too. Like how all this came to be, how this technology got corrupted, how he got to be the manipulator of it all. Like there's so much more of that. And I'm sure like you probably, that's more of, well, I know you like to know wake time more, but that's still the more like scientific, like how did this come
Yes.
into to being? Would have been more interesting to learn that too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like that is something that I felt was lacking is how did we get to where we are now? As you
Mm-hmm.
said, what is the origin story of like the injection and Luce himself? Like that would have been fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, it would have made for a much longer book if we had that in the beginning, or even if we had like a dual timeline thing where, every other chapter or something we got like from the
Yeah.
beginning and then current. But what you were saying about Luce and like it made me think of kind of like a wolf in sheep's clothing because I think it said
Mhm.
something about the fact like because he took on like such a youthful appearance, it was easier for people to find him trustworthy.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense.
But yes, what you said as well about how obviously wealthy people are going to hold more power, they're going to have more access. Um, it's, I don't know, not really different than societal structures of the regular world. So
Mhm.
I feel like it didn't make that big of a difference.
Right.
So, okay. Yep, that's the right one. I did view the people who died immediately in Dreamscape versus slowly as people who went to heaven during the rapture. Like his brother was gone immediately. It sounded like he believed. And specifically the main character didn't. That's true. Like we had to see his progression to getting into his belief a little bit.
So maybe
Seems
this
he
was just purgatory. I don't know. Maybe
yeah,
that's what she was going for. Purgatory. I don't know.
yeah.
And
That
then,
seems
yeah.
he had fully grasped his faith yet. Had to struggle more than to fully accept his faith. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's definitely the struggle. Just where my mind went during the scenario. When people are scared and confused and someone comes in saying, I have the answers, people can be quick to fall in line. That's true.
You have all the good answers. You
Yeah.
need to be like co-hosting this as well. Like you're on it. And you read this a year ago. Like
Yeah. I was gonna say,
you're
did she rate it
on.
5 stars too? Yeah. She
Yeah.
rated it 5 stars.
Yep.
I've read a book where society in another world has almost this exact technology, so I guess I felt like I already had the origin story. Oh, okay. What book? I wanna know. Um, oh. I have another one of my little notes. See, I'm glad I put these in here because I totally forgot about this. So I said I would wonder if any of it was really real. So as far as the shared dreamscape, um, like kind of like what I was saying before, like how do you know that what you're experiencing is the same as what somebody else is
Yeah.
experiencing?
How do you know it's not just you're dreaming this? Like,
Yeah.
how do you know it's the actual like dreamscape
Mhm.
that you're in from this virus? Like,
Yeah.
how do people determine?
And I mean, I guess that's kind of debunked because they do interact in the awake time as well.
Yeah,
But prior to that actually happening, that's kind of something I
yeah,
was thinking about. Like, what if, like, is that the twist? Like, none of this is real? And I mean, technically, it's not really real. Like, I don't know.
it's interesting.
Yeah. The Reality Bug by DJ McHale, but it's the fourth in the series. Oh,
Never heard of it.
no, me neither. Sounds interesting, though. All right. So, how would the story have changed if you were the main character instead of Kane?
Well, let me just tell you, and I know Kane wasn't the mathematician, it was his brother, but like these guys were smart. You know, he was like doing all this chemically stuff, trying to come up with the cure. That would not have been me. No, ma'am. Like, no. And I don't know. I feel like would have been, if I woke up in the tunnel, I probably would have been more of a fear than an anger. Um, I would like to believe that I would have been brave, but that's because on the end of Cain was still coming into his faith, his brother and his mom were already there. So I would like to think that like I would come in different, and maybe I would come in on the spore side. And I like to think that I would be one of those people in that little house, like helping take care and like of the kids and like all this, like that's where I feel like I would be, but I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't think I would have came in angry. I don't think I would have been trying to find a cure. Like that's just not that's not my nature in it. So like I don't think I would have been how his character would. I definitely wouldn't have been. I don't think I would have been. This is if you were the main character. I don't know that I would have been a main character, but like so it would have been interesting. Like let's say I was still just coming into my faith and I wasn't coming in on the side of the spores or Delphi or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how I would have come in into a world like that. I mean, like I said, a fear. I do think I would have come in more in a. I wouldn't have been angry. I don't think, because I don't think I would have understood it. Well, he didn't understand it either. I don't think. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. What about you?
I also don't think that I would have been like, I don't have main character energy. So, and all like the battle stuff and the creating the creatures from his mind, like that, no, that wouldn't have been me. Or it would be, I would have like,
I do think that was cool though. Like the creative in me does think like you made this with your mind. Like
yeah,
that's kind of cool. But it took me a while to understand what night beasts were and what because at first I was like, what are these creatures coming out of the sky? I thought this was sci-fi, not fantasy. So like which they do overlap at times. But yeah, so after learning what those were, and then after learning, I love the little like wheat grains and how they would like create all the light stuff that would I just that's where I got into it. Honestly, like my favorite part of the whole thing was that wheat field because
mhm,
for me that just did something for me. Like that's his safe space, that's the place where nobody can touch you. That's when like you're like for me that's when you're in the presence of glory or you're in the presence of God. Like that's your safe space. Like nobody can touch you here. And that part specifically reminded me of a middle grade book that I read called The Nightmare House. Is that
hmm,
what it's called? The Nightmare House. Do I have that book up there? It's not on the shelf. Is that what it's called? But it was about this, it was a Christian allegory and it was actually done really well, but it was a spooky middle grade.
hmm.
And there was a time where like the girl would go in her bathroom and instead of it being her bathroom, it would be a field of sunflowers, which you
Uh,
know I love. And there was a gardener in there and she always felt safe. Like she couldn't, um, what was that called? It wasn't the Nightmare House. The Nightmare, yeah, it was the Nightmare House. There was this thing called the Fear Maker, and she couldn't sense the Fear Maker when she was in that field of sunflowers with the gardener. So when they said wheat field and he was describing how he felt, I was like, oh my gosh! Like, so that's why I think I love the second half so much more.
mhm.
This is the book I'm talking about, The Nightmare House. It looks
Oh,
terrifying. You love
oh,
it,
yikes.
but it's really good. It's one of my favorite middle grade books of all time, if not my favorite now. But yeah, that's what it reminded me of. And so that's why I think I liked that part better of the story. But that's the, I don't know, that's just a different side of my brain that I connected with, I guess.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, as far as like being a fear or an anger, I guess it would depend on like if my kids were involved. Because if it's just me, I'd probably be a fear. But if my kids were involved, I think like mama bear mode would activate and I would be
Yeah.
angry and I would,
Do you think you'd be like the lady that was waiting, like she was at the tunnels, but she was looking for her daughter at the end? Remember, it's Heidi's mom, that little girl that came in and she, remember?
maybe.
I don't know. I just think like because she was pretending she was like there, but she wasn't really with the bad guys. She was just trying to wait for her daughter to come through, but she was already there.
Yeah.
She was kind of fierce in that moment. Like she was like, "All right, now I'm switching sides," and she was fighting like a baddie. Like she, so maybe that would be
I like that. Yeah. Well, let me just tell you. She quoting you.
I get. I don't even know what I said, so I don't.
Where's the rewind button? Would probably have died immediately. See, me too, honestly. 'Cause, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I try to imagine myself. I'd like to think, kinda like you said, I'd like to think that I'd be brave, and I think, again, if my kids are involved, I would hold out longer, but if it's just me, I'm just like, "I'm just gonna lay down and just let it happen." Like,
Just
I don't I'm tired. Just yeah. No one's heard of it. It's the Pendragon series, and it's middle grade. Oh, okay.
Okay, Pendragon, I've heard of that name, but I just didn't know the title, I guess, of the specific books.
Is it like you have to read them in order, or could we, like, just skip to the 4th book? I'm curious. Or just create a bunch of shadow cats, imagine some really good food and wine, and live out those 22 days, then die. Yeah.
But they gonna make you go in that Coliseum and fight for your life. What you gonna do then? Stick the shadow cats on them? I'll just be sitting out there in the Coliseum drinking her wine, letting her shadow cats do the business.
Well, maybe the cats can fight for her.
Mhm.
No, I think, yeah, if I could, then I would just, like, turn into Violet Sorrengail, and I would just conjure a dragon and fly away, and just, but interesting, like, could you fly away? Are there limits? Is it like a
Well,
dome and you're gonna, like, hit
well,
a
they
wall?
would have that end of the like, on the other side of the wheat field, there was that end of the dreamscape, so there's probably, like, not an actual I'm sure if you flew so high, it probably would have a ceiling.
Could you go through it though? Or is it like a barrier?
Well, if you're that guy with the little thing that he had and he was I guess you could, but
See, this is stuff like news to me. I'm like, I don't remember that
Mhm.
part.
Well, at the end when they were at the wheat field and the things were coming and he had to break through the end of the dream thing where it goes back to the tunnel on the other side or like the black whatever, and he was trying to break through with his dagger that Luce gave him, but he ended up having his own like sword thingy that the spores had, and then it penetrated the what you call no, I don't even know. Now I'm thinking about what my brain is overlapping with so much other content right now. Like I don't know what it was, but something was like this is irrelevant to anything, Elise. But I was thinking about there was something that somebody was trying to break through, and they had to put a tack in there and then hammer it to like get something to break. But I
Mhm.
think I was watching Arrow, and maybe that's what it was.
Oh,
Like bulletproof, how to get through bulletproof glass. Anyways, all the stuff is jumbled in my head.
yeah. I mean, you remember more than I did because, like I said, you're telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, "Nope, it's
I'm
not in there."
surprised. I would not consider this a memorable book. Like I will forget.
Yeah,
So
yeah. See, and this is why I try to finish it as close to the live show as possible because I finished this Monday night, I think, and I'm already like, I don't know.
Yvette's comment, I can't. Stop. Stop. Stop.
Oh my
Apparently,
gosh.
I can't say that word. Good Lord.
I think I would have been suspicious of Luce because of the whole killing people in the arena thing, but I wouldn't know what to do with that information.
Yeah.
I don't even think I would be in a position to even speak to him, honestly. Whoopsies. Now, if I could have been cool enough to create a dragon, I would have just spent all my time in that. Yes. Ooh, so, like,
Dragging people.
we could conjure a dragon and then maybe conjure, like, our own Xaden as well. I wouldn't mind that.
That doesn't sound like a nightmare anymore, guys.
No. No, it doesn't. Pendragon has to be read in order. Oh, well, probably won't get to that then. Oh, she's laughing at
Yeah.
this one. I agree, I've already forgotten half, yeah. Yep. Explaining.
I mean,
Yep.
I guess it's like fluffing cotton. We're just talking and it's making me remember things.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So, I mean, I already said my only one was
Yeah.
Ready Player One, but any other or anyone in the comments, any other books, movies, TV, even games, that this made you think of? I'm trying to think of games. And I don't think I know of any. Mm.
Mm-mm. I
Okay,
mean,
so,
he's
like,
kind of mentioned a lot.
what I guess let's reword this. So, if you like, for somebody who liked this and for someone who didn't like it, what is something that you would recommend that they read? Or do you not have any?
Well, I think it's the same thing. It'd probably be, I mean, I didn't read Ready Player One, but I would probably recommend the same thing that would make me think of it.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I mean, just why dystopian in general. I don't know that I've read anything or watched anything similar to this. I mean, like obviously, okay, no, but no, actually no, because people were like, "This is like Gladiator," blah blah blah. I didn't get that. Like, I get it because like it was a coliseum and it was, but it
Mhm.
didn't give me Gladiator vibes. Not really. I mean, I guess if I would have visualized it better, they did talk about people were wearing Roman clothing and there was a coliseum and they did have to fight. But at the end of the day, I would not say if you liked this, you should watch Gladiator. You know, it's just different. So I don't know that I like that comparison.
Well, see, I have never seen Gladiator, and it made me think of Gladiator. So, like, just based off what I've seen in previews.
Just like the overarching theme,
Yeah,
yes, maybe, but not like the whole movie, I wouldn't say.
yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah, I don't know other than that. Anything dystopian. I mean, I think anybody that enjoys seeing, but like you said, they did spend a lot more time at the end of the day in the nightmare, which made it a little bit more otherworldly or fantastical versus being just kept in a dystopian world. But I do still think people that tend to like why dystopian would probably, I mean, they could potentially enjoy this. So, like any other, I don't know. I don't have any good comparisons.
yeah. And it's hard to even recommend more by this author because I feel like all her books are so different. Like,
Mhm.
Wistress is like straight fantasy.
Yep.
This is a blend. The Romanov, I guess I don't know if there's fantasy elements, but
There
probably
may be, but I think I mean, it's obviously a little bit historical with the time period that it's in,
Mhm.
but I think it's fantasy though. Let me see. She has another book too. Oh, I think, but it's older. Well, I'll get there in a second. I was going to say something, but I'll save my thoughts to the end. Oh, Fox is the other book.
Mm,
It's like
like
this.
Phoenix. Oh, I've seen that. What is that one about?
Um, Thomas Fox is turning to stone, and the only cure to the stone plague is to join his father's plot to assassinate the King of England. So it says it's historical fiction fantasy. I think that's what Romanov is too. Yeah, historical fiction fantasy.
Okay.
She also has this other series which I've heard people talk about, and they enjoyed it. I don't know. I think it's maybe more sci-fi too. Dystopian, fantasy, sci-fi, Christian. Oh my gosh, it's all the things again. It's a series. It's the Out of Time series. The first one's called A Time to Die.
Mm.
And I
It
think
reminds me of
I've
like
heard,
Journey to the Center of the Earth.
yeah, I think I've heard the most positive things about this one. It says, "How would you live if you knew the day you die?" So it's one of those situations. 364 days, 7 hours, and 16. No, 15 seconds left to live. Like everyone else on the east side of the wall. Parvin Blackwater, what a name, has a clock counting down the days until her death. That makes me think of In Time with Justin Timberlake, where they had the time
Mm.
on their wrist.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wonder if she's inspired by all this stuff we're talking about because I mean,
Yeah.
taking good inspiration from everywhere. But anyways, so that's that one. But I've heard good things. Is it a trilogy? Yeah, it's a trilogy.
Mhm.
But anyway,
It's
so that's
fun.
the other stuff she's written.
Okay. I was thinking maybe something having to do with like Greek mythology or Roman mythology. Okay, so I know they called him Icarus. I can't
Yeah,
remember who called him Icarus, but I know he was called Icarus. I
yeah.
don't remember why. Like, what
I
sparked that?
think just because of how he killed, what was that girl's name? He killed that girl, and that when he got
Like,
that name, the girl that
wasn't
was his four, and then she came back later. But isn't that when? Maybe I don't know.
well, wasn't there something about the sister, like the girl that he and I can't remember her name, but the girl that he ended up kinda getting close with, wasn't it her sister? that he killed? Or am I,
I don't
like,
remember.
totally confused?
Yeah, I don't remember, but I looked up Icarus because you're talking about Greek mythology, so
Well, because like, I know of Icarus as, like, the Greek mythological figure, he flew too close to the sun. Like,
yeah.
that's what I kept picturing, but then, because in fact, I remember I was shopping for groceries and listening to the audiobook, I think the first time that I heard them call him Icarus. I'm like, "Well, wait, why? Why did they
Hmm.
call him Icarus?" Ooh, we have some comments. I should probably look in these. People are probably
Sure. Yeah, I
Oh,
don't understand why he would be called
so
that.
that said he flew to kill the spore. Okay.
Maybe that's why.
So that makes sense then. Where did we leave off?
Interesting.
Whoops.
Okay.
Oops. Okay. Like Keisha explaining most of the yeah. Okay. I would have been sus of everything and done nothing about anything. I think, yeah, me. Same. She was explaining 3 books and a TV show in one. Okay, yeah, that one. Mistborn a little bit. So
Wendy,
definitely
I don't think you're on anything with that. I don't think that this, I haven't even read Brandon Sanderson, but just from hearing people talk about him, like this writing is probably like elementary to what that man writes. Like, so I don't think that that's probably accurate.
Or maybe, like, if you like the general idea of this, but you want it done better,
There you go.
maybe go for him. Insomnia or Limbo. I haven't heard of either of those, but I'm very curious. What, like, platform? Platform? What am I trying to think of?
Console?
Huh?
Console, maybe? I don't know. What do
Yeah,
you
like,
call
is
it?
it
What device? I don't know. What
Yeah, I can't think of the word. He's like, "Brandon Sanderson." No.
Wendy.
I said what I said.
At least your country's coming out being on here with me.
So, Christian Raid with Roman themes with fighting made me think of Francine Rivers' trilogy, Mark of the Lion. It's nothing like this book, but one of my favorites. Okay. So, if you like the Roman themes, a Christian Read, check out that. Didn't she write something about a river? I feel like somebody, oh no, her last name is Rivers. I don't remember the name of the book. Never mind.
That's so something I would do. I'm like, that's funny.
She has her Out of Time series. Okay, that's the one that you were talking about with the countdown.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was a good laugh.
I could have I'm pretty sure there is
I mean,
a
there may be something about
that now it's gonna bug me. Let me look at it.
Redeeming Love.
Huh?
Her most well-known book is Redeeming Love.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let's see. Okay, so if you like the light versus dark theme where you don't know who to trust, but you don't like the virus part of the book, I'd recommend trying Rooms by James L. Rubart. Okay. Rooms.
Coming in with the recommendations.
Yeah, no kidding. By James. Oh, here it is. Oh, that looks creepy.
Ooh.
It's like in the woods.
Yes.
Yay. Yeah, mystery, fantasy, suspense. Nice. Okay. Thank you. All right, platform is right. PlayStation and Switch. Okay. And I have both of those, so I should try to check that out. Oh, yep. Redeeming Love, another popular one by Francine Rivers. It became a movie? I didn't know that. It was recommended to me a long time ago, and I just still haven't read it.
It's really good.
Oh. I feel like I have that somewhere. And maybe not. I don't know.
I've heard of that book for my whole life. Never did I know it was about a virus.
No, me neither. Like, and I have it, and I didn't know it was about a virus. I've never read it. All right, Keisha. Let's talk about our final thoughts and our ratings. And guys, if in the comments, if you have any final thoughts, let us know those as well.
Well, this will be my first and last Nadine Brandes book. Don't have any desire to pick up anymore. And it took me until she published this book to give her a try because this was the most interesting. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I liked it. There was no point that, I mean, I think at the beginning I was like, oh, I could DNF this. But then after I got into it, I was like, no, I'll finish it. Like once I hit the halfway mark and I got toward the end, like I said, I liked the end better. I did give it a 3-star because I thought it was good. I just didn't think it was great or anything special. And I do think that there's people out there that would enjoy this. I guess like probably a little bit more subjectively, like over time it would become a 2 because I don't think it's going to be memorable enough. But I can stick with my 3-star rating. I appreciate what she was trying to do. I just think she did too much. And I do wonder if in her other books, if she does too much too, like if anybody's read any of her other books, which I don't think anybody had said they had, but if anybody has, like I'm curious if that's a theme with her that she tries to do too much or if it was just with this one. But I would like to know. I don't know if I'm curious enough to pick up another of her books if she did this, but if she just had one sole focus, I wonder if she would do it better, just to have, because I'm just more, I don't know. Was this more like plot or character driven to you?
I mean,
Or
both.
both?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think both. Because like there's a lot going on in the plot, but I feel
Yeah.
like his progression into
Yeah.
his
I do
faith
think
is a pretty strong theme.
at times it was a little too plot driven for me. And I say that only because I didn't connect with the characters for a long time. And I even think by the end I wasn't still connected, but I appreciated like what she was trying to do with it. I just wish it would have gone deeper. I wish it would have been more fleshed out, but not fleshed out in a way of like, let's add more stuff to all the different, I don't know. It just make it more simplistic and meaningful and deeper in that regard. So it was fine. It was a letdown, but it is what it is.
Yeah. All right. I ended up giving this a 2-star rating.
Well, at least it wasn't a 1.
Well, it might as well have been.
Well, I know you're like, I would have DNF'd it if I didn't
Yeah.
have to read it.
Yeah. Like
I'm
I
sorry
rarely,
it was good.
yeah, I
At
rarely
least
get
Foe was good for us.
what?
I said, I'm sorry it was done. At least Foe was good for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So I think what could have made this better was kind of like we talked about, if there was more of the origin of the whole virus or the dreamscape that became corrupted and turned into this whole thing. Like I would have liked to see that. The awake time, the more dystopian part, I would have preferred more of that. But again, I liked it more in the first half of the book because the awake time in the second half, it wasn't as good for me, I don't think.
Yeah.
So, and I do think like all of the fantasy aspects just really didn't do it for me. Like it was too much. It was kind of cool, but I would have rather have seen that its own thing to where something is like fully fantasy or this being its own thing, being fully dystopian. So,
Right.
and as far as like, I don't know, I'm probably not going to read or try Nadine Brandes anymore in the future because with having DNF'd Wistress, wanting to DNF this, which is a bummer because I'm super intrigued about the Romanov book, but I'm sure there's other books that cover that topic that would probably be a better choice for me.
Yeah.
So,
have you read Blood Air?
It doesn't sound familiar. I don't think so.
Well, you should read it because, well, I don't know if you should or not. The only reason I say that is because Romanov, like, is like based on Anastasia. Blood Air is very loosely based on it, but it's fantasy and it's bloody and it's one of Yvette's. I don't know if it's Yvette. Is it one of your favorite books or is it just a 5-star? Oh, there she goes. It doesn't sound familiar. I read it because of her.
Let me look it up. Maybe I'll recognize the cover. Blood Air, you said?
Yeah.
Blood Air. By Amelie Wenzhou?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it.
So initially I'm nervous because it is YA, but
I don't feel like it reads very YA.
okay.
Yvette could probably tell you one way or another, but to me, it read more. It definitely didn't read like this book, which is, yeah, that's it.
I like the buildings.
Yep.
Very Russian architecture looking. Okay, nice.
Did you like Six of Crows?
I haven't read it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't either. I'm just saying I'm reading Yvette's comment.
Okay, well, mine was a DNF, 2 stars.
How do you DNF and still give it a 2-star? I don't need to say that because I've done the same thing.
I was gonna say I usually don't rate.
I read enough of it to form an opinion. That makes sense. So.
Yeah. Because she DNF'd at 60%, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to quickly wrap up the ending, I'm here for it. Oh, Keisha, you want to?
I don't know if I remember. Where did you leave off, Yvette? So here's a fun fact. Luce wanted Kane to save his dad, and he told him, I don't know how far you got, but like the whole deal that he had with Luce was that if Kane saves Luce's dad in the real world, then there's an extra life suppod that Kane could hook up to, and he would live longer and I guess maybe find the cure. He was thinking the longer he could live, maybe the more he could find the cure. I don't know what he was thinking. Anyways, but you find out that Luce's dad is actually Luce. And so he was just trying to save himself. And like there's this big reveal at the end where you see his facade of like being this young man. He's actually like an older man, and he's like crumpling and dying. And it's a lot to explain, to be honest with you, like because there's this whole thing where he goes to get the life supply and he moves it to this cabin, and then he is promised this life supply, but he finds out that Crixus is actually in the life supply, and Crixus is not a spore, but he kind of believes like a spore. But Crixus is kind of like what you would imagine somebody who's been hurt by the church to be. He doesn't identify with the spores, but he does believe like the spores do, but he's just alone, like a lone Christian or something is what I would elaborate. He's just been hurt by the church or by the spores. But he was actually in that pod. What happened at the end? What happened at the end?
That's because they don't ask me.
Oh my gosh.
I remember the thing about Luce, and it's not his dad, it's actually Luce. And
I feel like they were still dealing with things. Like, right? Like everybody didn't just wake up and it was all hunky dory.
No,
right?
No, I don't think that happened.
No word.
There was a lot of the children were reunited with their parents, weren't they?
Yeah, I think they're just going to live out their days on the other side of that wheat field in the catacombs. I don't know if you got that far where the catacombs and the spores lived, but he defeated Luce with that sword thingy. Because he was the draftsman.
I think it was almost a little open-ended, or like there's room for interpretation.
Room for a sequel, which is supposedly how at least her last couple books have been.
Mm-hmm. I think my 3.5 is more of a 3-star. I love the beginning and just wanted it to be so different. Yeah. Definitely would have liked it to be more sci-fi. There was a lot of fantasy in this. I like the light versus dark commentary. Didn't mind not getting all the answers because I feel like it could have changed the dynamics if the characters knew too much for certain. Okay. Like they could have tried to manipulate it more or something. Would have DNF'd, but I wanted to be able to discuss.
Thank you for being here.
Very much appreciated, Wendy. Feel like I zoned out the second half. Yep. I was forcing myself to finish. I'm glad I got the audio on Hoopla. Same.
Gosh, at least we got to pick a better book next time. I mean, I know I picked it, but it was on your TBR too.
It was. And I gifted you that book because I was like, oh, that sounds really good. I want to read it too. Like,
Oh gosh. No, there's the flutter.
Glitters, great. I really like the first one, Six of Crow vibes. Okay.
Very heisty.
Gotcha. I'll have to check it out then, especially if it doesn't feel super YA, then I might actually like it. I was gonna say, ma'am, you definitely keep rating to DNFs. You.
I know. I know. After I said it, I was like, well.
Every DNF for me is a 1-star. I just think if I hate it enough, I can't finish. That's as bad as it gets. I get that, but then there's times too, like.
But if you know it's not going to be a high rating, like if you know it's going to be a 2 or a 3, you're like, I don't feel like finishing.
Yeah, or it's like, I don't know. If I know a book's not for me, but I can recognize like it's good and it's good for people who are the right audience. Like I don't necessarily want to tank the rating by rating it. So like I guess for me, like a DNF doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad book. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I was wondering who was in the pod, figured there was a person there. And didn't Crixus like blow up the cabin to try to kill Luce?
He was trying to kill Luce.
Yeah. They're stuck in the virus for the rest of their lives, however long that happens to be. Okay. Like as far as the ending.
But they killed the draftsman. But also, what happens when you kill the draftsman? Like,
Right.
how you gonna get out of there? Nobody found a cure. You're stuck in there. But I guess they can still go back and forth.
Right.
So maybe there's hope for a second book for them to find a way out. I don't know.
Yeah. Or I wonder, could things like resolve? Like if he's not there to continue manipulating?
Yeah.
Maybe. Like
But
maybe
they'd
the
still be
evil.
stuck there.
Right. But maybe it won't be like as bad as it was.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully no one has to like fight anymore.
But then their bodies would just die. See, that's the thing. When their bodies die, they're not still in the nightmare. I know we talked about this. You said that you wish that Cain would have found his brother.
Yeah.
And, which I do think that would have added to the story because there was always that hope there of like maybe he's there, maybe he's trapped in a tunnel somewhere, maybe he's whatever. But I guess like when you die in the dream and then your real life body dies, like where do you go? Like which if this is a Christian allegory, I guess maybe you go to heaven, but like what is this place then? Like I don't know. It's just there's a bunch of gray area of like unknown there.
Yeah.
But no, they didn't wake up either. So
3 times. Oh my. Like 2.5. I'm like, okay, wait, what? I'm catching like every other word.
Trying to get through it.
I think Jessie also says that she like regularly does 3 times speed. I'm like, your brain works way faster than mine.
It did like very few times can I do that. The audio narrator has to read really slow.
Yeah.
If I do that. So
yeah. 1 star, I have to be physically mad at it, not just bored. Yeah, I think like the last 1 star that I gave was an Eric LaRocca one. I can't remember what it's called. The one with like the girl on the front with the short hair, her face melted.
Blood.
Yeah. I can't remember what it's called, but that one I'm like, what did I just read? I won't be reading the second book.
Me neither.
Oh my gosh, they're stuck in the virus. I'm so glad I did not finish. It would have ended as a 1 star. My brain gets adjusted to 3 times speed eventually, and it's not even fast anymore. Oh, wow.
Okay.
All right. Well, oops, how do I get that off? Oh my gosh, what's happening? There we go. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining, and thank you so much, Keisha, for being a co-host again. Hopefully in the future we'll see you back. So next month, March, our book pick is going to be, you can't really see this one.
I love that edition.
It's so pretty. It's just really hard to see. But Jurassic Park, Heather with Books and Heather. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot her handle. And the live show is April 2nd, 7 p.m. Eastern. We have a couple more comments here. So that means you can finish the second book for us in less than a day and tell us what happened.
Yes. Nobody says there's gonna be a second book. If she leaves her books open-ended like that a lot of
yeah.
things, you know?
Thank you, ladies, for an amazing discussion. Thanks for joining, Sam. I appreciate it. Thank you, Yvette. Never watched
Oh,
the
what? Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, like the whole what? No.
And there's more. There's another one coming out with Scarlett Johansson in it.
Fix it, Jesus. Wendy, what are you doing with your life?
I can't, but that blows my mind. I've never read the book, obviously, but never having seen the movies. I'm so sad I'm missing next month. I've always wanted to read Jurassic Park. Well, why are you missing it?
I think that's when she's going to Japan.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, you're forgiven. Thanks, Wendy. Okay, that's okay.
I'm going to try to read it. I need to be in the mood, but
yeah. I'm terrified, honestly, because I love the movie so much. Like, what if the book just is not as good?
Yeah. It's hard when you've seen the movie first.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, how similar are they or not? Like, I don't know. And I feel like because when was it published?
I think 1990.
Okay, well, maybe it won't be too bad then. But I'm just like, how is the writing, like.
But, I mean, there have been so many new additions, so I would assume things have maybe been updated a little bit.
Yeah, I hope so. Have you ever read the book or seen the movie Annihilation?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so it's sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
You should watch the movie. Don't read the book. Because I watched the movie and I really loved it. It's got hold on, let me see who it is that's in it. And it's okay, what I was gonna say is I watched the movie and I loved it. It came out in 2018. It's got Natalie Portman in it. And this is the movie.
Oh, what's it about?
And it's about, so her character's husband got lost in this, what do they call it? Okay, she's a biologist and a former soldier, and she's on this mission to uncover what happened to her husband. He went into Area X, and nobody really knows, like, what's in there. Like, there's, like, this mist that you go through, and there's this whole, like, it's an apocalyptic kind of situation. But, well, actually, I don't know that it is. It's sci-fi. It's definitely sci-fi. But they're on this expedition, and in this Area X, there's, like, all these different mutations, like, the people end up mutating and the animals and plants and stuff, like there's a bunch of mutations and stuff like that. And she goes in there to try to find her husband to bring him out of it. Mm-hmm. But it's like, it changes you. So you should watch it. Mm-hmm. You should watch it. It's a really good movie. I've seen it 2 times. Mm-hmm. And I tried to read the book and it was awful. The writing was horrible. Don't recommend. So that's my fear. Like you're talking about Jurassic Park. Like that's my fear with that too. Is like, oh. Yeah.
So. Ooh. Okay. I'll watch the movie then. Do you know like if it's streaming on anything currently?
Annihilation is on. It's on Amazon Prime.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for joining. Can't find the audio on anything. I got it on Audible, I think. I'm pretty sure. And it might be an Audible exclusive. Let me pull it up real quick. I keep getting dog hair all over my phone screen. Still not used to that. Okay, it doesn't say Audible exclusive, but I got mine on Audible. It's like 15 hours long. Y'all are reading Jurassic Park? We sure are. One of my all-time favorite books. It's amazing and has so much more in the book. So much more. Ooh, okay.
Okay, look, there's some encouragement.
Thank you for telling us that. Maybe I'll join the discussion just to see what y'all think of the book. Like the movies, but not sure if that's enough for me to buy the audiobook. Oh, that's okay. It's not like, we can spoil if you've seen the movie, so. Alrighty. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you April 2nd, hopefully. Bye.